I am 83 years old. I want you to let that sink in for just a moment. 83 years. That is more than 30,000 sunrises. More than 30,000 nights I closed my eyes not knowing if the morning would come. And here I am, still breathing, still remembering, still carrying things I should have put down a long, long time ago. You are 50. Maybe you just turned 50, and someone threw you a party with a cake and a banner that said, 50 and fabulous! And you smiled and laughed and ate the cake. But somewhere deep inside, in a quiet place you don't talk about at parties, a small voice whispered something. Maybe it said, "Is this really the halfway point? Or is this closer to the end than I think? I am not here to scare you. I am here because I love you. Not you personally, but you, the person who is standing exactly where I once stood. I am here because I made mistakes that cost me years. Not days, not weeks, years. And if I can save you even one of those years, then these words are worth every breath it takes me to say them. So today, I want to talk to you about 5 things you need to throw away before you turn 70. Not donate, not store in the attic, not revisit someday when you feel stronger. Throw away, let go, release. The first one is the hardest. And I say that because it lives in your chest, not your closet. You can't put it in a box. You can't take it to Goodwill. It has no weight, and yet it is the heaviest thing most people carry for their entire lives. It is the need to be right. I remember a Tuesday afternoon in 1987. I was 44 years old. My brother Daniel and I were sitting in our mother's kitchen 2 weeks after she had passed, arguing about her china cabinet, not her love letters, not her photographs, not the quilt she made by hand, the china cabinet, a piece of furniture. I told him she had promised it to me. He said she had told him it was his. We were both so sure, so absolutely, completely, furiously sure. That argument, about a piece of furniture, lasted 6 years. 6 years of silence. 6 years of holidays where one of us was missing. 6 years of our children growing up without their cousins at Christmas. 6 years of phone calls never made. And then Daniel had a heart attack at 51. He survived. But I will never forget standing in that hospital hallway, holding a cup of coffee I couldn't drink, asking myself, was I right about the china cabinet maybe? Probably. I honestly don't remember anymore. But here is what I do know, what I know at 83 with every single cell in my aging body. Being right cost me 6 years with my brother. 6 years I can never get back. And for what? A cabinet that is now sitting in a storage unit that neither of us visits. When you are 50, you still have this fire in you, and that fire is beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You know things. You have lived things. You have earned your opinions through real pain and real experience. You have every right to your convictions. But there is a difference between having convictions and being addicted to winning arguments. The need to be right is an addiction. Just like any other addiction, it gives you a short burst of satisfaction, that warm, glowing feeling when someone finally says, "Okay, you were right." And then it leaves you empty. And like any addiction, it costs you more than it gives you. Think about the relationships in your life right now. Think carefully. Is there someone, a spouse, a sibling, a grown child, a friend, who you are in conflict with? And if you are honest with yourself, really honest, is the conflict about something that will matter in 10 years? Not feel like it matters. Actually matter. Most arguments are not about what they appear to be about. The china cabinet was never about the china cabinet. It was about grief. It was about 2 sons who had just lost their mother and had no idea how to be in that much pain. The argument gave us something to focus on, something to fight, something other than the unbearable emptiness that comes when the person who loved you first is suddenly gone. Your arguments, the ones you are holding on to right now, they are probably not about what they look like either. Here is what I want you to practice. Not tomorrow. Today. The next time you feel that hot surge in your chest, that tightening in your jaw, that absolute certainty that you are right and they are wrong, pause, just for 3 seconds, and ask yourself one question. Do I want to be right, or do I want to be close? Because you can almost never have both. Not at the same time. In that heated moment, you must choose one. And I am telling you, from the perspective of a man who is 83 years old and has buried friends and brothers and neighbors and parts of himself he will never get back. Closeness is worth more. Closeness is the only thing in the end that keeps the loneliness away. There is a woman in my memory. Her name was Ruth. She lived across the street from me for 22 years. We had a dispute about a fence in 1998. A fence. 2 feet of property line. She hired a lawyer. I hired a lawyer. We spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours being furious at each other. We stopped waving when we got the mail. We stopped acknowledging each other at all. Ruth died in 2019. I went to her funeral because her daughter asked me to, and because in my heart I knew I had to go. And do you know what her daughter said to me at the reception, with tears in her eyes? She said, "Mom used to talk about you sometimes." She said you reminded her of her father. Just that, one sentence. And I stood there with a plate of food I couldn't eat, thinking about 22 years of silence between 2 people who might have been friends. We were too busy being right. At 50, you still have time. You have the most precious and rare thing in the human experience, enough time to change. Not unlimited time, but enough. Enough to put down the need to be right. Enough to walk across a street, or pick up a phone, or knock on a door, and say the words that matter most. I don't want to fight anymore. I miss you. I choose you over being right. Those words are not weakness. They are the bravest words a human being can say. And they are words I wish I had learned to say at 50 instead of waiting until I had already lost so much time. Throw away the need to be right, even if it hurts. Even if you are right. Especially then. Because on the other side of letting go of that need is something extraordinary. Peace. Real peace. The kind that lets you sleep at night. The kind that makes Sunday mornings feel soft instead of heavy. The kind that lets you look at the people you love and feel only love, not the complicated tangle of love and resentment and old arguments that most of us carry for decades. You deserve that peace, and so do the people who love you. That is the first thing. The need to be right. Put it down. Right now, today, in this moment. Decide that you are done carrying it. We are going to talk about something that lives in your schedule, in your phone, and in the way you say yes when everything inside you is screaming no. Stay with me. I want you to know something. You are not here by accident. Something in you is ready. Something in you is listening in a way it hasn't listened in a long time. And that matters. That is the beginning of everything. Now I want to talk about something that is going to feel uncomfortable. Not in the dramatic, tearful way that part 1 might have felt, but in a quieter, more familiar way. The kind of discomfort you feel when someone describes something you have been doing for years, and you suddenly realize it has a name. The second thing you need to throw away before you turn 70 is the obligations that are slowly draining your life, not your responsibilities. There is a difference, and it is important. Your responsibilities are the things you committed to that carry real love, real meaning, real necessity. Raising your children, showing up for your marriage, honoring your word, caring for someone who genuinely needs you. Those are not what I am talking about. I am talking about the other pile, the pile that has been growing quietly for 30 years without you ever consciously adding to it. The committee you joined because someone asked you at the right moment. The holiday gathering you host every year, even though it exhausts you for 2 weeks. The friend you keep meeting for lunch, even though every lunch leaves you feeling slightly worse than before you arrived. The phone calls you dread but answer anyway. The projects you say yes to because you cannot bear the idea of someone being disappointed in you. That pile. I know you know exactly what I am talking about, because right now, something in your body just responded. A slight tension, a small sigh, a familiar weight settling back onto your shoulders just from reading those words. At 50, you are at the most dangerous intersection of your adult life. You are old enough to have accumulated decades of obligations and young enough that people still expect everything from you. Your boss expects you. Your children, even if they are grown, expect you. Your parents, if they are still living, need you. Your friends, your neighbors, your community, your church, your volunteer group, they all have a version of you in their heads, a version of you that shows up, says yes, handles things, never complains. And you have spent the last 30 years becoming that person. You became them slowly, one yes at a time, one, of course I can help, at a time, one, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it, at a time. And somewhere along the way, you forgot to ask, what do I actually want? I am not talking about selfishness. I want to be very careful here, because I know how that word lands, especially if you were raised, as so many of us were, to believe that putting yourself first was something to be ashamed of. I was raised that way. My mother was a good woman, a deeply loving woman, and she taught me by example that you give until you have nothing left, and then you give a little more. She believed that with her whole heart, and she died at 68, exhausted. I do not say that to be unkind to her memory. I say it because I watched her, and I loved her, and I did not want to end up the same way. And then I did it anyway. For decades. Here is the truth that took me until my late 60s to fully understand. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. That phrase has become so common it almost doesn't mean anything anymore. But I want you to think about it literally. Think about an actual vessel. A pitcher, a jug, whatever image comes to mind. When it is full, it gives generously, it nourishes, it satisfies. When it is empty, and you keep tilting it, trying to pour, nothing comes out. And the people you are trying to serve, they get nothing. And you are standing there, exhausted, tilted sideways, giving everything and producing nothing. That is what a life of unchecked obligation produces. Not generosity, not love, exhaustion dressed up as generosity, resentment quietly hiding inside love. I had a friend named Harold. Harold was the most giving man I ever knew. He was on 4 different boards by the time he was 55. He volunteered every Saturday. He never missed a funeral or a birthday or a graduation. He was present at everything for everyone. And one evening his wife, Margaret, came to me quietly and said, I cannot remember the last time Harold sat with me and just talked. Really talked. He is everywhere for everyone, and nowhere for me. Harold did not know that his wife was lonely. He was too busy being generous with the whole world to notice the one person sitting quietly at his kitchen table, waiting. At 70, Harold retired. He had a plan. All those things he was going to do, all those trips, all those slow mornings with Margaret. But his body had been running on obligation, fuel for so long that when it stopped, it didn't know how to rest. He got sick within 2 years. Not from any one thing, from everything. From decades of yes when his body was whispering no. Harold is gone now. Margaret still lives in their house. She told me last spring, very gently and without bitterness, I just wish we had had a few years just for us. I think about that often. You are 50. You still have those years ahead of you. But they will not appear magically at 70, fully formed and waiting for you like a gift. You have to build toward them now. You have to start making the small, brave choices now that create the space for those years to exist. And that begins with a list. I want you to do something today. Not when you have time, because you will never have time if you wait for it to appear. Today, take a piece of paper or the Notes app on your phone and write down every regular commitment in your life. Everything. Work obligations, social obligations, family obligations, volunteer obligations. The things you do on weekdays, weekends, holidays, every year without fail. Now look at that list. For each item, ask yourself 2 questions. Question 1, if I said no to this, would something genuinely terrible happen? Not uncomfortable, not disappointing, but genuinely terrible. Question 2. When I think about doing this thing, do I feel light or heavy? The ones that answer no to question 1 and heavy to question 2, those are your candidates. Those are the obligations that are slowly draining the color out of your life. Now, I am not telling you to quit everything tomorrow. I am not telling you to send a mass email canceling your existence. That is not wisdom. That is chaos. What I am telling you is to begin. Begin the process of quietly, respectfully, lovingly, firmly reclaiming your time. You are allowed to say, I've given this years of my energy, and I'm grateful for the experience, and it's time for me to step back. You are allowed to say, I can't make it this year. You are allowed to say, I need to protect my weekends right now. You are allowed. That is the sentence I want you to hear more than any other today. You are allowed. Because here is what I know at 83. Here is what I know with every single year of my long, messy, beautiful, imperfect life. The people who will be sitting beside you when everything is quiet. When the business stops and the obligations fall away. They are not the committees and the boards and the groups. They are the handful of people you love most deeply. And they need you present, not performing. Your presence is your most valuable gift. Not your yes, not your availability, your actual alive, rested present self. Throw away the obligations that are draining you, not all at once, but begin. One brave no at a time. Each no to the wrong thing is a yes to the right thing. And the right things, the moments that will matter when you are sitting in a quiet room at 83, remembering, those are worth protecting with everything you have. We are going to talk about something that lives in your memory and how the stories you keep telling yourself about your past may be quietly destroying your future. Stay with me. This one changed my life. You have a story. Every person alive has one. It is the story of who you are, where you came from, what happened to you, and why you are the way you are. Parts of it are beautiful. Parts of it are painful. And parts of it, the parts I want to talk about today, are quietly holding you prisoner in a life that is smaller than the one you deserve. The third thing to throw away before you turn 70 is the old story you keep telling yourself. The one that starts with, I'm just the kind of person who, or after what happened to me, or in my family, we don't, or it's too late for me to, those sentences, those invisible walls. You have been building them for 50 years, and you have gotten so good at it that you don't even see the walls anymore. They just feel like reality. I grew up poor. Not inconvenienced poor. Poor. The kind where you learn the exact sound the electricity makes when it's about to be cut off. My father worked hard and loved us fiercely, but money was always thin and life was always a little bit frightening. And somewhere in those early years, I built a story about myself. The story said, you are not the kind of person who has nice things. You are not the kind of person who takes risks. You are not the kind of person who dreams too big, because the bigger you dream, the more it hurts when you fall. That story kept me safe. It also kept me small. I turned down opportunities in my 30s and 40s because my story told me I wasn't ready, wasn't qualified, wasn't that kind of person. I stayed in situations longer than I should have because my story said that was just how things were. I watched other people step forward into their lives while I stood at the edge, telling myself a very convincing, very detailed, very false story about why stepping forward wasn't for me. At 50, you have been telling your story for decades, and the telling of it has made it feel like truth. But I need you to hear this. Your story about yourself is not the truth. It is a draft. And you are still the author. Think about the stories you carry. Maybe yours sounds like, I've always been the responsible one, so I can't be spontaneous. Or, I was hurt so badly in that relationship that I'm just not someone who trusts easily. Or, I never finished my degree, so that door is closed. Or, my family doesn't talk about feelings, so I'm just not that kind of communicator. These stories feel like facts. They have evidence. They have history. They have footnotes. But they are still stories, and stories can be rewritten. I have a sister named Gloria. She spent 40 years telling herself and everyone around her that she was just not creative. Her mother had told her that once when she was 9 years old. 9. And Gloria carried that sentence for 4 decades like it was her identity. She kept it carefully wrapped in the center of her chest, pulling it out whenever creativity appeared nearby. Oh, not me. I'm not creative. I never was. At 62, something happened. Her granddaughter asked her to paint rocks together. Just rocks, just paint, just a Sunday afternoon. And Gloria said yes, because it was her granddaughter, and you say yes to granddaughters. And something opened up. Something that had been sitting quietly behind that old story for 40 years finally got some air. Today at 76, Gloria sells her painted pottery at a local market every other Saturday. She has a small following. She wakes up on painting days like a child on Christmas morning. She told me last year, with tears that were somehow both sad and joyful at the same time, I lost 40 years believing a story a 9-year-old heard from a tired mother. Don't lose another year to a story that was written by someone else, or by a younger, more frightened version of you who was doing the best they could at the time. At 50, your brain is still extraordinary, not less capable, different. You have something at 50 that you did not have at 2050: wisdom, perspective, and the hard-won knowledge that comes from having actually lived. The world needs 50-year-old dreamers. The world needs 60-year-old beginners. The world desperately needs people who have lived enough life to understand what truly matters, stepping forward with courage to do the thing they always said was not for them. So here is your assignment. I want you to write down your old story, the full version. All the reasons you are the way you are, all the things that happened that made you who you are, all the "I'm just not someone who" sentences. Get it all down. And then I want you to ask yourself, who would I be if none of these things defined me anymore? Not who would you be if the things hadn't happened. They happened, and they are part of you. But who would you be if you stopped letting them set the ceiling on your life? That person. The one who just appeared quietly in your imagination when you asked that question. That is who you still have time to become. Throw away the old story. Write a new one. You are 50, and you are still the author. This one is going to sting. I am going to warn you right now, before I say a single word more, that this part of our conversation is going to bring up names. Real faces. People you have known for years, maybe decades. And some part of you is already tensing up, already ready to argue with me, already preparing the defense for why you cannot possibly let go of these people. I understand. I really do. And I am asking you to stay with me anyway. The fourth thing you need to throw away before you turn 70 is the friendships that no longer fit. I am not talking about imperfect friendships. All friendships are imperfect. I am not talking about friendships going through a rough patch, or friendships that require patience and grace and the occasional difficult conversation. Those friendships are worth keeping and fighting for. I am talking about the friendships that consistently, reliably, without fail, leave you feeling worse after you spend time together. The ones where you hang up the phone and feel slightly emptier than before you called. The ones where every conversation circles back to their problems with no room for yours. The ones where your good news is quickly minimized and your struggles are subtly one-upped. The ones where you feel, underneath everything, quietly judged. At 50, you have a collection of relationships that span your entire adult life. Some of them are among the most precious things you own. They have seen you through marriages and divorces, births and deaths, failures and triumphs. Those friendships are gold. Hold them with both hands. But others, and you know who I mean, others are what I call historical friendships. You are not really friends anymore. You are two people who used to be friends, bound together now by shared history and the mutual unspoken agreement not to acknowledge that you have grown in completely different directions. There is nothing wrong with growing in different directions. It is one of the most natural things in a human life. The tragedy is not the growing apart. The tragedy is staying out of guilt, out of obligation, out of the fear of hurting someone, and paying for it with the energy and time and emotional space that could be going to the people who truly fill you up. I had a friend for 35 years. I will not use his real name. I will call him Martin. Martin and I met in our 20s, and we were thick as thieves for a long time. But somewhere around our 40s, something shifted. Martin became bitter in ways I did not fully understand. He was passed over for a promotion that deeply wounded him. His first marriage ended painfully, and he began to see the world as a place that was fundamentally unfair and out to get him. I stayed. Because 35 years is 35 years. Because I remembered the man he was at 24. Because I felt that leaving would be a betrayal of everything we had shared. But every time I spent time with Martin, I came home heavy. His bitterness was contagious. His certainty that life was unfair began to drip slowly into my own thinking. I started to see obstacles where I used to see opportunities. I started to feel that familiar weight that his voice carried. Finally, at 67, I had an honest conversation with Martin. Not cruel. Never cruel. But honest. I told him that I loved him and that I was concerned about him, and that I needed to step back from seeing each other as regularly as we had. It was one of the hardest conversations of my life. He was hurt. He was angry. He did not understand. But in the space that opened up after that conversation, I found something I had not felt in years: lightness. And I used that space to deepen 2 other friendships that had been quietly waiting on the edges of my life. Friendships with men who laughed easily, who asked questions, who were curious about the world, who made me feel like the best version of myself. The quality of your friendships at 60, 70, and 80 will determine the quality of your life more than almost anything else. Research has shown this repeatedly and conclusively. Loneliness kills as surely as smoking. The wrong relationships are their own kind of loneliness, sometimes worse than being alone, because at least alone you are not being slowly drained. Look at your friendship circle. Who fills you up? Who drains you? Who makes you laugh until your stomach hurts? Who calls to check on you with no agenda? Who tells you the truth even when it is uncomfortable? Those are your people. Invest everything in those people, and the others, let them go gently, lovingly, without drama or cruelty. You do not owe anyone a dramatic exit. You simply begin giving your time and energy to the right places, and the wrong places quietly fade. You have 20 to 30 years ahead of you, if you are lucky and take good care of yourself. Those years deserve to be surrounded by people who see you clearly and love what they see. Throw away the friendships that no longer fit. You are not abandoning people. You are finally choosing yourself. I saved this one for last because it is the one that underpins everything else. Every other thing I have asked you to throw away today. The need to be right, the draining obligations, the old story, the wrong friendships. All of it is made harder to release by this final, enormous thing that most people in America are barely allowed to talk about. The 5th thing you must throw away before you turn 70 is the fear of your own death. I know. Please do not turn this off. Stay with me, because I promise you, this is not a dark conversation. This is the most liberating conversation of everything we have discussed today. I am 83. I have made my peace with the fact that I will die. Not because I am depressed, not because I have given up, not because I don't love my life. I love my life more at 83 than I ever have. But because I have learned, through years and losses and mournings that made me gasp with gratitude, that a life fully lived requires a full and honest relationship with its ending. At 50, death feels distant. It is technically closer than it was at 30, but it still has a theoretical quality to it, like something that happens to other people. And so you do what most Americans do. You do not plan. You do not talk about it. You do not sit with the reality of it long enough to let it teach you what it has to teach. And what it has to teach you is this: your time is finite. And because it is finite, it is precious. And because it is precious, it must be spent intentionally. Every single thing I have talked about today, every obligation you are afraid to release, every argument you are clinging to, every old story you keep telling, every draining relationship you will not leave, all of it is being held in place, at least in part, by the unconscious belief that you have unlimited time, that there will always be a later, a someday, a when things calm down. There is no unlimited time. There is only now and the choices you make in it. I have been to many funerals in my 83 years, more than I can count, and in all of those services, in all of those eulogies, I have never once heard someone say, "He worked so many weekends." I have never heard, "She won so many arguments." I have never heard, "He held on to his resentments with such admirable consistency." What I hear over and over, in every eulogy for every life, is this: he loved people. She was present. He made you feel seen. She laughed easily. He said what he meant. She showed up. Those are the things that survive us. Not our accomplishments, though accomplishments matter. Not our titles, though work matters. The love, the presence, the laughter, the realness. When you are afraid of death, you unconsciously avoid everything that reminds you of it. You avoid talking about your wishes with your family. You avoid writing the letter to your children that explains what you want them to know. You avoid thinking about what you actually want the last chapters of your life to look like. Because thinking about last chapters means admitting there is an ending. But here is what I have discovered in the quiet mornings of my 83rd year, sitting with a cup of coffee and watching the light change. Accepting your mortality does not make life smaller. It makes every single day enormous. When I walk in my garden now, I am not walking to get from one end to the other. I am walking because I am aware, with every step, that I have been given this morning, this light, this smell of earth and green and growing things. And that gift is not guaranteed tomorrow. So I receive it today with everything I have. When I sit across from someone I love, I am not half present, thinking about what comes next. I am there. Completely, fully, wholly there. Because I know that the number of times I will sit across from them is not infinite. That is not sadness. That is aliveness. The most radical, revolutionary aliveness available to a human being. At 50, you have a gift that I did not fully appreciate at your age. You have enough time to build a beautiful, intentional second half of your life. And you have enough life behind you to know what truly matters. That combination is extraordinary. Most 25-year-olds have the time but not the wisdom. Most 80-year-olds have the wisdom but not the time. You, at 50, have both. So here is what I am asking you to do. Not as a morbid exercise, but as an act of profound love for yourself and the people in your life. Sit down soon and think about these questions. Write down your answers if you can. When your life is over, what do you want people to say about the way you lived? Not what you achieved, how you lived. What relationships do you want to have nurtured? What experiences do you want to have had? What words do you want to have said? What fears do you want to have faced? And then, this is the most important step. Look at how you are living right now, today, and ask yourself honestly, am I living in the direction of those answers? If not, change course, gently, lovingly, bravely. Now, because the greatest gift you can give to the people who love you is not a long life. It is a full one, a conscious one, a life where you showed up, where you let go of what didn't matter, where you held tightly to what did, where you loved without holding back, and where you were, in the true sense of the word, alive. Throw away the fear of death. Let it do its job, which is to wake you up, and then go live. I am 83 years old, and if I could go back, not to change what happened, but to arrive at wisdom sooner, I would go back to 50. I would find myself at 50 and I would say exactly these words. Throw away the need to be right. Choose love over victory. Throw away the obligations that drain you. Choose your life over performance. Throw away the old story. You are still the author. Throw away the friendships that no longer fit. Choose people who fill you up. Throw away the fear of death. Let it make you fully alive. You are 50. You have time. Not unlimited time, but enough. More than enough. Use it well. We have come a long way together today, and I want you to know something before I say goodbye. Something I mean with every year of my 83-year-old life. I did not share these things with you, because I have it all figured out. I did not speak to you today from a place of perfection. I spoke to you from a place of scars. Real ones. The kind that took years to stop hurting, and then took more years to become wisdom. I made every single mistake I warned you about. I held on to arguments that cost me relationships I can never recover. I said yes to obligations until I forgot what my own desires felt like. I told myself a story about who I was and what I deserved for so long that I almost believed it completely. I stayed in friendships that quietly hollowed me out because I was afraid of what letting go would say about me. And I spent decades not thinking about death, running from it, refusing it, pretending it was a conversation for another day. Until the day came, as it always does when it sat down across from me and refused to be ignored. And here is what I want you to hear in this final moment we have together. It is not too late for you. I know that phrase can feel hollow. I know that at 50 you have already heard it 100 times, usually from people who don't really know the weight of what you are carrying. But I am not saying it to be encouraging. I am saying it because it is factually, measurably, undeniably true. You are 50 years old. If you live to my age, and I hope with everything I have that you do, you have more than 30 years ahead of you. 30 years. Think about everything that has happened in your life in the last 30 years. Think about who you were at 20 and who you are now. That is the distance you still have in front of you. That is the canvas that is still blank and waiting. But here is the thing about canvases. They do not paint themselves. And they do not wait forever. I want to walk back through what we talked about today, not to repeat it, but to let it land one final time, the way the last note of a song lingers in a quiet room after the music stops. The first thing, the need to be right. You know who you need to call. You know which relationship has been sitting in the cold because someone had to win. I am telling you, from the other side of decades of experience, make the call. Not tomorrow. Soon. Say the words. Let the warmth back in. Being right will not keep you company at 2 a.m. when the house is quiet and the years are heavy. The people you love will. The second thing, the obligations that are draining your life. Somewhere on your calendar right now is something you do not want to do, have never really wanted to do, and have been doing for years out of guilt or habit or the fear of disappointing someone. I am giving you permission, not that you need my permission, but I am offering it anyway, to begin the gentle process of saying no. One no at a time. Reclaim one evening. Reclaim one weekend. Reclaim yourself. The third thing, the old story. The one that starts with, I'm just not someone who. That story has been running in the background of your life like an old, slow, draining program on a computer. It is using energy you need for living. Close it. Not violently, gently, firmly, with compassion for the younger version of you who wrote it in the first place. And then begin, word by word, day by day, to write a new one. The fourth thing, the friendships that no longer fit. You know the ones. The calls that leave you heavier. The people who shrink you. You do not have to make a scene. You do not have to send an email explaining yourself. You simply, quietly, lovingly, begin moving your best energy toward the people who deserve it. The right people will rise to meet you. And the fifth thing, the fear of your own death. I know this is the hardest one. I know that in American culture, We are not taught to hold this truth. We are taught to look away from it, to dress it up, to postpone the conversation. But I am asking you, begging you, as someone who has watched too many people arrive at their final years without having truly lived them, to make peace with your ending, not to dwell in it, not to be consumed by it, just to let it in enough that it changes the way you live today. Because that is what it is for. Death is not the enemy of life. Fear of death is the enemy of life. Death itself, when you have made peace with it, becomes the most extraordinary teacher you have ever had. It will show you, with absolute clarity, what matters and what does not. And it will give you back the time you have been wasting on the things that do not. I want to tell you one last story. Last autumn. This past October. When the leaves were doing that thing they do, that brief and blazing and heartbreaking thing where they become the most beautiful they have ever been right before they fall. I sat on my front porch in the early morning, just me and my coffee and the light, and I thought about my life, not regretfully. I have done enough of that. I thought about it the way you look at a painting in a museum, standing back, taking it all in, the colors, the shadows, the parts that didn't go the way you planned and somehow became the most interesting parts of the whole. And I felt, sitting there in that October light, something I can only describe as grateful. Not for the easy parts, though those were wonderful, grateful for all of it. The arguments I eventually let go of. The obligations I finally dropped. The stories I rewrote. The friendships I released so that better ones could find me. The long, slow, difficult process of making peace with the fact that I am temporary. All of it. Every hard, uncomfortable, painful, brave thing had brought me to that porch, to that light, to that cup of coffee held in two hands, warm against the cool October air, to that feeling of being at 83 years old, profoundly and quietly and completely alive. That is what I want for you. Not at 83. Now, starting today, starting with one small, brave decision to put down something that has been too heavy for too long. You are 50. You are not old. You are not done. You are not too late. You are, if you are willing to do the work, right on time. Before I go, I want to leave you with 5 sentences, one for each thing we talked about today. Write them down if you can. Put them somewhere you will see them. Read them on the days when the weight comes back. Because it will come back. That is okay. That is human. Just read these words and begin again. 1. I choose closeness over being right. 2. My time is mine and I spend it with intention. 3. I am not my old story. I am the author of a new one. 4. I surround myself with people who make me more alive. 5. I am finite, and because of that, I am precious. And so is this day. Thank you for sitting with me today. Thank you for listening to an old man who just wanted to hand you something useful before the years passed. I hope somewhere in these words you found something that belongs to you, something you needed to hear, something you are ready, finally, to act on. Go live your life. The real one, the full one, the one that has been waiting patiently behind all the noise and obligation and fear. It is not too late. It is never ever too late, until it is. And today it is not.